Hi, I'm Kylie and welcome to this week's episode of Money, 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 where we cut out the jargon and talk about all things financial. Welcome to this episode of Money, Money, Money. Buying an investment property is a common goal for many Australians, and we have a lot of clients coming to see us at the local loan company about which investment strategy is right. So to help us understand some of these strategies today, I have with me Kim Fewings, Principal of the local loan company in Ellenbrook. Welcome, Kim.
Yeah, thanks, Kylie.
Let's start with the most common one that we hear about, which is negative gearing. What is negative gearing?
Yeah, okay, so in a nutshell, negative gearing is where the level of expenses relating to that investment, so e.g. the interest outgoing, the interest cost, the shire rates expense, the water rates expense, the property management expenses, insurance, maintenance, etc., exceed the level of income, e.g. rent for that property. And in a nutshell, that's it. So you've got more outgoings than incomings.
Making it negative.
That's correct.
All right, so what about the next one, which is positive gearing, assuming it's just going to mean the opposite, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So you've actually got positive income from the property. So the rental income, the income for that property exceeds the level of outgoings.
Okay, and final one that we hear a lot about is positive cash flow properties. What are they?
Okay, so with positive cash flow, it's slightly different. For tax purposes, you can actually claim things like depreciation on the property, which is a paper figure. It's not an actual cash outgoing.
So not an actual loss?
That's correct.
Right.
So whereby you've got the property negatively geared for tax purposes, however, the true cash flow position for that property that exceeds the level of expenses. So you've got positive cash flow from the property.
Now that sounds great. Are they easy to find, those properties?
Not necessarily, but with the right research and the right level of looking into what's available, it can be done.
And that's the key to it, isn't it? Is doing your research properly.
Correct.
Not jumping into the first one that you see, attending lots of different seminars perhaps that talk about all of those different things.
Correct.
And not just signing up to the boot camps willy-nilly as we've seen clients do in the past.
Yeah, exactly. There are pros and cons with everything, okay, and there are certainly some positive aspects to negative gearing, but there are a lot of negatives too that are generally not highlighted when people go to seminars and listen to property spruikers, etc.
Exactly. So let's go through some of the pitfalls of negative gearing.
Okay, so probably the major pitfall with negative gearing that people don't realise is negatively geared. So that shortfall in cash flow has to come from somewhere, and generally that is from the individual's personal exertion income. So if they're, like the average Australian, they have jobs, they have income from their work, they have to use part of that income to support that investment, and there's an inherent risk in doing that.
So the shortfall's coming out of my hip pocket.
Correct. So
okay.
They actually, and that's where, you go to a lot of the property seminars and they say, it's only going to cost you $50 a week to maintain this property. The problem with that is it does have to come out of your hip pocket. And so the risk with that is what happens if something happens to you? What happens if something happens to you, that personal income that you have? If that stops, then your ability to retain or maintain that investment is diminished, and you may be faced with a situation where you have to actually sell that investment.
Yeah, and same as if interest rates rose.
Correct.
It's then more than the $50, so you need to factor that in when you're looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. So, the way to protect yourself against that risk is to look at things like income protection. And this is what makes income protection even more important, to put that safety net under your overall financial strategy. And this is where it's important to speak to those professionals in the industry that truly understand all aspects around investing.
Yeah, I think that's, because it's not always fully explained at the, for want of a better word, the property spruikers or those trying to sell their boot camps. It's not always fully explained what are the pitfalls. It does come down to it's only going to cost you $50 a week.
Correct. And a lot of those strategies they have, you say, look, acquire 5 investment properties and hold them for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
If all those properties are negatively geared, that means you have a great reliance on your personal ability to generate your personal income, right? So that accelerates your risk, it increases your risk. Now, the issue with that is there's an actual limit to the number of negatively geared investments you can own, because there's a limit to your amount of your personal income. It can't go past a certain point, and especially from a lending perspective. So this is where, you've got to understand what is your strategy, what's the way to protect your risk and make sure that you can retain those investments. Because let's face it, most people work very hard to achieve them, and so you don't want anything unforeseen preventing those or stopping those investments from continuing.
Yeah. One of the things that I often get asked, and you've probably come across it too, is that people think on paper there's a $20,000 loss, and then they say to me, that means I'm going to get $20,000 back at tax time. That's not actually the case. The loss comes off your taxable income, but the government doesn't hand you $20,000 back. Have you come across that?
Yeah, exactly. So it's the old thing, you get back a percentage of that loss relative to your personal taxable income level. So, if you're on a 38 cents in the dollar tax bracket, that's the level of rebate you're going to get.
Right. Yeah, so it is a misconception sometimes.
It is. Like, it's spending $1 to get 38 cents back. So you've still got expense. You still have costs with it.
Yeah.
And it's at once a year. So again, during the year, if it's not tax time and you're not getting that rebate, you've still got to fund the shortfall with a negatively geared property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you looked at all of those strategies, is there one that stands out to you as this is the one that you should go? Because I know everyone's different and their situations.
Yeah.
So this is only general advice that we...
Yes, exactly. I mean, personally, if I could find a property that for tax purposes was negatively geared, but in actual fact was cash flow positive, okay, then that's the type of property I would look for, because ultimately it's not affecting your ability to retain that investment. If the investment is positive cash flow, that means you can retain. If something happens to you personally and your personal income stops, you don't have to sell that property necessarily. It's actually helping you, right? It's actually helping you with your personal income and meet your personal expenses because there's excess income from it. And that means there's less reliance on your need for insurance as well. So there's a couple of really good aspects to positive cash flow property.
Yeah. One of the things, Kim, that I don't know how well we can explain it, is that here we are in 2017 and there's a lot of talk about negative gearing perhaps being stopped or changed. How do you think that's going to sit with everyone that already has investment properties that are bought on that basis of negative gearing?
Well, look, it's like any investment, and as an advisor, I always tell my clients that are in that situation, it's something that you must review regularly, and you can only make changes once legislation has changed. So despite all the talk, despite all the rhetoric, until it actually becomes law and things change, there's no point trying to change your strategy because you just don't know which is the correct path to take.
Yeah, or worrying about it really, because
Correct.
you can't do much unless the legislation is enacted.
That's correct.
All right. So key to a good investment strategy, I think, is attend as many different seminars as you can to learn as much as you can about the different investment strategies.
Yes.
And to read. There's some brilliant books out there that talk about investment strategies.
Yes.
In property and in other investment avenues. Anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd always be wary of just people that just give you the positives to any investment. I'd always ask, well, what is the downside? What is the potential risk? And if you fully explore what all the risks are attached to that particular investment opportunity, if you're then comfortable with those risks, then that's fine. But if you don't understand them, ask questions, research.
Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome.
I think that's given us some great understanding and insight into the different investment strategies. Look forward to seeing you next time on Money, Money, Money. Thanks for watching Money, Money, Money. If you liked this video, hit the red subscribe button. If you'd like to know more information, you can follow us on Facebook or go to our website, linked in the information box below.